The novel coronavirus has made its way to the United States with a confirmed case.
There's currently no vaccine to provide
The world economy has been rocked.
2020 was a whirlwind of a year. So much injustice, chaos, confusion. And on top of all that, a seemingly new virus infects millions. And now people are fearing for their lives. So this made me wonder how people were dealing with all of this. So I asked them,
I miss getting in a car and just driving. I can't do any of that now. Like, I have a scooter that hits 15 miles an hour tops. Life is rough. I do miss being able to like go to the gym. I mean, that was nice. You kind of take those things for granted until you can't do it anymore. And then you're like, oh, I kind of miss doing that. What are my plans for when this quarantine is lifted? Gym. Start hitting the gym a lot more because I was already in a good routine and then they closed. So I know here in Turkey, they just implemented more restrictions on the people that come from off base to on.
I mean, I would say like the thing that changed the most was just motivation. At the very beginning of the year, I just wasn't doing much. And then coronavirus hit, and then I realized maybe I'm getting a dad bod back again. And then ironically enough, not a crutch, but a friend of mine said I had a dad bod. And I was like, whoa, definitely don't need that. So I would say the thing that changed the most was just how I was working out because the gyms are closed. I had to go outside, I had to start doing more workouts at home inside, and then I just had to keep that consistent. It's a challenge because there are not a lot of machines, but you can make do with what you get. And sometimes the best thing you can do in life is make do with what you got.
I would say when quarantine started, I was super lonely. Like, you can't go out anywhere and you really don't want to put your friends in jeopardy. So I got a cat because I was thinking about getting a cat for years. My cat's name is Ladybell, and I actually got her, I would say 2 months after quarantine started, just because it was getting to a point where it was so lonely and I was thinking about getting a cat for years anyway. She is so cuddly and so sweet, and I'm so glad I got matched with her. It's so amazing.
My wife is not even wanting to let anybody in the house. If you can imagine that. Yeah. And I'm limited as to being able to go and hang out with my friends. Still managed to get a little bit in, but not much.
I stay in contact with a lot of people through FaceTime and Twitter, my Twitter account. Also, we've used a lot of video conferencing. So I've talked to 6, 7, 8 friends at a time doing that, and family. So that's been going great. So I haven't felt like, even being in this house locked up for about 2 weeks, I haven't felt alone.
2020 was a great time to reflect. With so much alone time during such a chaotic time.
Personally, I feel like it's very tricky because like it seems like everyone these days is really just on one side or another. Like, oh, all cops are racist and they just kill black people, or like, in the cops' perspective, not mine, all black people are just thugs and they need to be locked away or some stupid shit like that. It's all one side or another. And the one thing that I remember my friend said is that a very dangerous concept is that we could, what for cops can do with black people when they like associate like crime with a certain group, we as a society can do the same thing with cops by associating them all as racist. So it's a very thin line. I feel like we should blame the people responsible and the system absolutely needs to be changed, but it cannot be changed with riots. And especially, like, I'm down for the protest, but not while COVID-19 is happening, because at that point you're just being self-destructive and you're hurting yourself. It's not going to solve anything. It's just going to make things worse. We have to be smart about this if we're going to actually progress into the future and make things better for each and every one of us.
With the injustice going on around here, I feel like police brutality has always been around, racism has always been around, but I don't think we've done enough to help stop it. I feel like we've just sort of not been paying enough attention to these things. Like, there are still things happening, like lynching, sundown towns, all of that, and we haven't been trying to stop them until now. We shouldn't have to worry about the police. I'm personally scared of the police. I would never call the police in an emergency. Because one, I don't even know if they would show up. There have been so many cases where people call the police and they don't show up. And honestly, if they do show up, I feel like whatever's happening, I would probably be hurt. Like, I don't trust the police. I don't know what would happen if I called them, and I don't want to find out what would happen, and I don't want anyone that I know who's a person of color to have to interact with the police. I don't want my dad, my grandma, my little brother, anyone to interact with them, because I don't know what will happen, and that shouldn't be the case.
Given the fact that my wife just recently had kidney transplant surgery, we need lots of water to drink. And also, too, that kind of like is why she's so about letting people in, because her immune system has been weakened a little bit from the surgery. So we got some issues that we're dealing with. So water is one of our big things. By cases of water. We only got about 3 or 4 of them.
And I filled up my freezer, I filled up my refrigerator, things of that nature, not knowing during that time, just over a month ago, that I would have been tested positive for this. So no, I did not, and I didn't hoard anything. I didn't hoard any toilet paper. I think that's ridiculous. I travel a bit. I came back from a trip. The next day, I became just sort of queasy. I felt kind of sick all over. I felt achy, I had headaches, a serious dehydration twice. Even though I had all of these symptoms, I didn't have a temperature. In fact, one I'm not sure if she was a nurse or whatever on one of these lines, she said, "I'm sorry, but you don't have 104 temperature." So, I said to her, look, at 104 temperature, I wouldn't be able to call you. I'd be delirious. And I wouldn't be able to drive myself. I'd have to call 911. And I'm not sure if I could be able to call 911 with 104 temperature. So it took about 3 times for me to call through and finally get a test, even though I knew at that point that there was undoubtedly a test positive, but you have to be sure.
The after effect of 2020 has caused great grief, tragedy, and pain. But yet still, there's hope, courage, and compassion. I believe that this is a sign that the world is changing. And so we do best to start thinking about the changes moving forward. For the world